Tesla's darkest hour, the sleeping bag that changed everything. The Fremont factory stood like a cathedral of broken dreams, in the California dawn. Steam rose from the parking lot's cracked asphalt, as the first rays of sunlight cut through the industrial haze. Inside, the silence was deafening, broken only by the rhythmic hum of machines that never stopped, and the measured footsteps of a man who had staked everything on an impossible vision. Elon Musk moved through the empty corridors, like a ghost haunting his own ambitions. His clothes wrinkled from another sleepless night, his eyes bloodshot, but burning with defiance. The factory floor stretched before him, hundreds of thousands of square feet that should have been buzzing with the triumph of mass production. Instead, it felt like a mausoleum of automotive history, where dreams went to die. The smell of motor oil and hot metal hung heavy in the air. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting harsh shadows across workstations where exhausted engineers had collapsed at their desks just hours before. Coffee cups sat abandoned, their contents long cold. Whiteboards covered in equations and production targets bore witness to months of failed attempts and shattered deadlines. This was June 2018. Tesla was hemorrhaging money faster than blood from an open wound. Every financial analyst on Wall Street had written the company's obituary. Every morning brought fresh headlines, predicting Tesla's inevitable collapse. The stock price plummeted like a stone thrown into an abyss, dragging with it the hopes of thousands of employees, investors, and believers who had bet their futures on Musk's electric revolution. In the boardrooms of Manhattan, predatory short sellers raised champagne toasts to Tesla's impending doom. They had placed billion-dollar bets against the company, convinced that Musk's hubris would finally be his downfall. The financial press fed on Tesla's struggles, like vultures circling carrion. "Tesla bleeding cash," screamed the Wall Street Journal. "Musk's electric dream turns into nightmare," proclaimed Forbes. "Is this the end of Tesla?" wondered Bloomberg. The numbers painted a picture of corporate catastrophe. Tesla was burning through $6,000 every single minute. The company had exactly 10 months of cash remaining, before bankruptcy would become inevitable. Production of the Model 3, the make-or-break vehicle that was supposed to bring electric cars to the masses, had crawled to a pathetic 2,000 units per month, far short of the 5,000 needed to achieve profitability. In the depths of the factory, exhausted workers whispered among themselves during their brief breaks. Rumors spread like wildfire through the production lines. Some said Musk was secretly negotiating to sell Tesla to Apple or Google. Others claimed he was planning to file for bankruptcy within weeks. The atmosphere was thick with fear, uncertainty, and the bitter taste of defeat. Musk's own inner circle, his most trusted executives and engineers, began to crack under the pressure. Some couldn't hide their doubt anymore. During late-night strategy meetings in the factory's crimped conference rooms, voices that once carried confidence now trembled with exhaustion and despair. "Maybe we need to consider our options," whispered his CFO during one particularly brutal session. "Maybe it's time to accept reality." But Elon Musk had never been a man who accepted reality when reality was unacceptable. The transformation began not with a grand speech or a boardroom revelation, but with a simple decision that would become legend. On a sweltering Tuesday morning in June, Musk arrived at the factory carrying a sleeping bag and a pillow. Word spread quickly through the production floor: the CEO wasn't going home. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not until Tesla survived. If my people are here, I'm here, he announced to his bewildered management team. If they're sleeping on the floor, I'm sleeping on the floor. If they're fighting for their lives, I'm fighting alongside them. He set up his makeshift bed right on the production line, between the robots and workstations where Model 3s took shape. The symbolism was unmistakable. This wasn't about executive leadership from an ivory tower. This was about survival, pure and simple. Every worker who arrived for their shift saw their CEO lying on a thin mattress, surrounded by the chaos of production, his phone pressed to his ear as he negotiated with suppliers, investors, and creditors. The smell of industrial lubricants mixed with the aroma of hastily consumed fast food. Musk subsisted on whatever the vending machines offered: stale sandwiches, energy drinks, packets of crackers. He showered in the factory's emergency facilities, when he remembered to shower at all. His appearance became increasingly disheveled, but his resolve only grew stronger. Sleep became a luxury measured in minutes rather than hours. Musk would catch 20-minute power naps between crisis meetings, curled up on his sleeping bag while around him the symphony of production continued, the whir of electric motors, the hiss of pneumatic tools, the constant beeping of forklifts moving parts across the factory floor. Every phone call was a battle for Tesla's survival. Suppliers demanded immediate payment for parts already delivered. Banks threatened to call in loans. Investors questioned whether their money had been flushed down an impossibly expensive drain. "You have to understand," Musk would plead, his voice hoarse from endless conversations. "We're not just building cars. We're building the future. Give me 30 more days. Give me a chance to prove this works." The human cost of Tesla's crisis extended far beyond the factory walls. Musk's personal relationships crumbled under the weight of his obsession. Family dinners became distant memories. Phone calls home were interrupted by production emergencies. His children went to bed without hearing their father's voice, while he paced the factory floor at midnight, calculating production rates and burn rates, fighting to keep his dream alive for just one more day. His management team watched in amazement and horror, as their leader transformed before their eyes. The Silicon Valley entrepreneur who once launched rockets into space, with the confidence of a modern Prometheus, now looked like a man possessed by demons only he could see. His eyes, once bright with visionary enthusiasm, became hollow and haunted. But his determination never wavered. "We either make history, or we die trying," became his mantra during those desperate weeks. He repeated it during 3 a.m. production meetings, when equipment broke down and schedules fell further behind. He whispered it to himself while staring at production charts that showed impossible gaps between current reality and necessary targets. He shouted it to rally exhausted workers, who had given up hope of ever succeeding. The factory floor became a 24-hour battlefield. Engineers who had never worked a manual labor job in their lives found themselves on the assembly line, their hands bleeding from handling sharp metal components, their backs aching from hours of repetitive motion. Software developers became quality control inspectors. Executives rolled up their sleeves and learned to install car batteries. The usual corporate hierarchies dissolved, in the crucible of shared desperation. Martha, a seasoned production manager who had worked for General Motors for 20 years before joining Tesla, later recalled those nights with a mixture of trauma and pride. "I've never seen anything like it," she would tell reporters months later. "We had PhDs sleeping next to high school dropouts, everyone united by this crazy belief that maybe, just maybe, we could pull off a miracle. The breakthrough came not through revolutionary technology or sudden inspiration, but through the grinding persistence of human will. Musk identified the bottleneck that was choking Model 3 production, a complex battery pack assembly process that had been over-engineered to the point of dysfunction. Instead of elegant robotic automation, they needed brute force human effort. Working alongside his engineers, Musk redesigned the entire process in real time. They tore out expensive automated systems that didn't work, and replaced them with simple, manual assembly stations. It was less elegant, less futuristic, but it worked. Production rates began to climb, slowly at first, then with gathering momentum. The nights blended into days in an endless cycle of crisis and incremental progress. Workers sustained themselves on pizza deliveries and coffee that tasted like motor oil. The factory's break rooms became impromptu dormitories, where exhausted employees grabbed a few hours of sleep before returning to their stations. Marriages strained under the pressure. Some workers quit, unable to handle the relentless pace. But for every person who left, another stepped forward, inspired by Musk's refusal to surrender. Wall Street watched with a mixture of fascination and skepticism. The same analysts who had written Tesla's obituary began to notice something unexpected in the quarterly reports. Production numbers, while still far from target, were climbing steadily. The rate of cash burn was slowing. Most importantly, the quality of vehicles rolling off the line was improving dramatically. But the financial pressure remained crushing. Tesla was still months away from profitability, and the cash reserves continued to dwindle. Every day brought new crises, supplier disputes, quality control issues, regulatory challenges. The difference was that now, instead of facing these challenges alone in a sterile boardroom, Musk faced them surrounded by a team that had shared his darkest hours, and refused to abandon the fight. The psychological warfare from short sellers intensified, as Tesla showed signs of life. Coordinated social media campaigns spread rumors of imminent bankruptcy. Anonymous sources leaked stories about internal chaos and management failures. Financial bloggers wrote detailed analyses, explaining why Tesla's apparent progress was merely the final gasps of a dying company. Musk felt every attack personally. Late at night, scrolling through his phone while lying on his factory floor mattress, he read every criticism, every prediction of failure, every celebration of his potential downfall. The attacks on his character, his competence, his sanity, cut deeper than any business setback. But they also fueled his determination to prove every skeptic wrong. The moment when everything changed happened on a seemingly ordinary Thursday evening in late June. Musk was reviewing production reports when his manufacturing director burst into the makeshift office, his face flushed with excitement and disbelief. "Elon," he stammered, barely able to contain himself. "We just hit our daily target. For the first time in company history, we produced exactly what we promised." The news spread through the factory like electricity. Workers abandoned their stations and gathered around the production boards, staring at numbers that had seemed impossible just weeks before. Some laughed. Others cried. A few stood in stunned silence, unable to process that their impossible dream had suddenly become reality. But this was just the beginning. The daily target success became a weekly achievement, then a monthly milestone. By the end of the quarter, Tesla had produced and delivered more Model 3s than any previous quarter in company history. The financial metrics told an even more dramatic story. For the first time since its founding, Tesla had achieved profitability. Wall Street's reaction was swift and brutal for the short sellers who had bet against Tesla's survival. The stock price doubled, then tripled, wiping out billions of dollars in short positions. The same analysts who had predicted Tesla's collapse scrambled to revise their estimates and recommendations. Financial news networks that had gleefully covered Tesla's struggles now found themselves explaining how they had underestimated both the company and its CEO. The human transformation was as dramatic as the financial one. Workers who had pushed themselves to the brink of collapse during those desperate weeks now walked through the factory with the pride of veterans who had survived an impossible war. They had proven to themselves and the world that ordinary people, united by extraordinary determination, could achieve miracles. Musk himself emerged from the experience fundamentally changed. The man who had entered the crisis as a visionary entrepreneur exited as something more, a leader who had been tested by fire and forged into something harder and more resilient. The hollow exhaustion in his eyes was replaced by a quiet confidence, born of surviving the unsurvivable. The wider implications of Tesla's resurrection extended far beyond one company's financial recovery. The entire automotive industry was forced to acknowledge that the electric vehicle revolution was not just inevitable, but already underway. Traditional manufacturers who had dismissed Tesla as a curiosity suddenly found themselves scrambling to develop their own electric vehicle programs. Environmental advocates who had watched Tesla's struggles with growing despair suddenly found new hope. If Tesla could survive its darkest hour and emerge stronger, perhaps the fight against climate change was not hopeless after all. Orders for Model 3s poured in from customers who wanted to be part of the revolution that had almost died on a factory floor in Fremont. The technological innovations born from crisis would ripple through industries for years to come. The manufacturing techniques developed during those desperate weeks, the marriage of human determination and robotic precision, became the foundation for Tesla's future growth. The lessons learned about lean production, crisis management, and organizational resilience became case studies taught in business schools around the world. But perhaps the most profound impact was on the hundreds of workers who had lived through Tesla's near-death experience. They carried with them a knowledge that few people ever acquire, the absolute certainty that the impossible is merely the untested. They had seen their leaders sleep on a factory floor, had worked beside executives with bleeding hands, had watched a company rise from the ashes, through nothing more than collective refusal to accept defeat. In the months that followed, as Tesla's stock price soared and production numbers shattered records, journalists would ask Musk about the secret to Tesla's miraculous turnaround. His answer was always the same. There was no secret. There was only the decision to never give up, even when giving up seemed like the only rational choice. Today, as Tesla stands as one of the world's most valuable companies, that factory floor in Fremont holds a different energy. The machines still hum, the workers still focus intently on their tasks, but there's an underlying confidence that wasn't there before. Everyone who walks through those doors knows they're part of something that survived the impossible. The sleeping bag that Musk used during those crucial weeks is now displayed in Tesla's corporate museum, a humble reminder of the moment when a CEO chose to fight alongside his workers, rather than above them. Visitors often pause at that exhibit, trying to imagine the desperation and determination that led a billionaire to make his bed on a factory floor. New employees at Tesla hear the story of the factory floor sleeping bag, during their orientation. It's become part of the company's DNA, a reminder that luxury and comfort are privileges to be earned through success, not rights to be assumed in the face of crisis. When new challenges arise, when production targets seem impossible, when critics declare Tesla's latest ambition to be unrealistic, workers remember the summer of 2018 and push forward. The lesson extends far beyond Tesla's factory walls. In boardrooms and startups around the world, entrepreneurs facing their own moments of crisis remember Elon Musk's decision to sleep on a factory floor. They remember that leadership isn't about maintaining distance from problems, it's about getting so close to the solution that you can smell the motor oil and feel the vibration of the machines. The story of Tesla's resurrection has become a modern business legend, but its deeper truth transcends corporate success metrics. It's a story about the human capacity to endure, to persist, to find strength in the very moments when strength seems impossible. It's about the choice between comfortable surrender and uncomfortable victory. As Tesla continues to grow and expand into new markets, as it builds factories on different continents and develops new technologies, the spirit of those desperate weeks in 2018 remains its driving force. Every new challenge is measured against that ultimate test of survival. Every seemingly impossible goal is compared to the miracle of producing 5,000 Model 3s in a single week, when everyone said it couldn't be done. The financial analysts who bet against Tesla's survival learned a costly lesson about the power of human determination. But the more important lesson belongs to anyone who has ever faced their own moment of seemingly inevitable defeat. Elon Musk's factory floor sleeping bag reminds us that sometimes the difference between failure and extraordinary success is nothing more than the refusal to accept that failure is inevitable. In the end, Tesla's darkest hour became its defining moment, not because of superior technology or brilliant strategy, but because of a simple human choice: to fight when fighting seemed pointless, to hope when hope seemed irrational, to work when working seemed futile. This is the true power of resilience, not the absence of fear or doubt, but the decision to continue despite fear and doubt. It's the understanding that the most important battles are won, not by those who never fall, but by those who always get back up. The next time you face your own impossible moment, remember the summer of 2018. In a factory in Fremont, California. Remember that miracles are not supernatural events, they're the natural result of supernatural determination. Remember that your own sleeping bag moment might be the beginning of your greatest triumph. What impossible dream are you ready to fight for? What comfortable surrender are you ready to replace with uncomfortable persistence? The factory floor is waiting for your own moment of choice between inevitable defeat and improbable victory. If this story moved you, if it ignited something inside your soul, then please, help us continue bringing you these incredible cinematic journeys. Hit that like button, it truly makes a difference for our channel's growth. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message of resilience, someone who's facing their own impossible moment right now. But most importantly, subscribe to our channel. Press that notification bell, because we're publishing new inspiring stories like this one every single day. We have an entire library of Elon Musk's most dramatic moments, his greatest failures, and his most spectacular comebacks. Don't miss out on these emotional roller coasters. Tell us in the comments below, which story touched your heart? What impossible dream are you fighting for? And what video would you like to see next? We have stories about SpaceX's near-catastrophic failures, Tesla's early days when bankruptcy seemed certain. Neuralink's breakthrough moments. PayPal's dramatic exit. The stories that shape the man who refuses to accept impossible. Remember, we publish fresh content every day. Stories that will inspire you, challenge you, and remind you that your own breakthrough might be just one decision away. Don't let these stories pass you by. This video was created with passion and dedication by Luca McCung. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey through one of the most dramatic corporate comebacks in history. Thank you for believing in the power of human determination, just like Elon Musk believed when he made his bed on that factory floor. The revolution starts with the refusal to quit, and it continues with your subscription.